Hello and welcome to the 2025 Annual Report for the Museum Department, the Mining and Rollo Jameson Museum. I am Cody Grabhorn, the Director of the Museum, and I will walk us through this report. First, I want to give you an overview of what is in this report. We are going to go over the annual budget report data, a summary of our previous year. We'll talk a bit about the strategic plans of the museum, the director's vision, and of course we will wrap it all up with a conclusion at the end. The museum department consists of 5 year-round employees: the museum director, collections and education specialist, administrative specialist, visitor services specialist, and our facilities tech. We do also have 5 summer tour guides, seasonal tour guides. The major responsibilities for me, the director of the museum, are to guide the museum on our mission, oversee all museum operations, cultivate relationships with major stakeholders, market the museum, build community partnerships, oversee and plan the museum budget, develop and organize staff, comply with local, state, and federal regulations, and to serve as liaison to the museum board and the Friends of the Museum Board. In 2024, the museum accomplished many things. Among those accomplishments are these 8 bullet points that I would like to show you. First, we went through a leadership transition. We navigated the transition of leadership from Director Eric Flesch and Interim Director Angie Wright to me, Director Cody Grabhorn. We set up a 5-year strategic plan. That is, the museum board and me, the director, set this strategic plan. We reached visitation benchmarks and set new, higher ones for next year. We improved our collections care, which is a continuous project for us here. We nurtured partnerships with museums, businesses, and other organizations. We received numerous grants from local, state, and federal organizations. We continued to maintain the numerous buildings and grounds that we have here, and we improved our accessibility both in the museum and outside of the museum. Our goals for next year include completing a comprehensive plan that evaluates our current revenue streams, update exhibit spaces, and implement a process to create annual rotating exhibits, such as initiating a visiting curator program. We want to continue to hit our cataloging goal of 1,200 items cataloged into our digital database. We want to welcome over 1,383 students for field trips, which would mark a 3% increase from last year to this year. And we do have over 1,500 students scheduled for field trips already this year. And lastly, we want to work on our marketing plans and our image that goes out into the public by talking more about our backyard space and how it can be utilized as a gathering/event space. Now let's go over the performance measurements for the museum. While we do have many different ways to measure the success of the museum, these 4 graphs are a great touch point for what we are looking at. We do look at attendance, both general and K-12, and I want to point those out because in 2024, our numbers look a whole lot different. That is because we are changing the way we report our attendance. Attendance will include museum events, programs, and field trips. It no longer includes website, YouTube, or social media visitation as museum attendance. Those numbers will instead be put into the digital reach reporting that we do. And that digital reach, that is works in tandem with our marketing, right? So we are worried about reaching our local audiences through newspaper, radio, and uh, posters, whatever we may put out there. Digital reach helps with that local, but it also assists us with the regional, national, and even international. So those numbers are quite large. Our social media reach for this last year was 14,200, and our website received 34,233 visits. Continuing to look at performance, we can move to the budget performance for 2024. Since this was a transition year, our expenses and revenue were significantly lower than budgeted. We expect that financial performance will more closely match our set budget this year. So we can go over 3 items from this last year where the budget was underutilized. First would be our seasonal budget line. This is for our tour guides. And this last season, we had a shortage of tour guides, and therefore we had to ask our part-time and full-time employees to help with tours. This took from their job, and this year we plan to fully employ our tour guides and use that line so that the rest of our staff can focus on the job that they are tasked to do. Next is our outlay. This line was not used last year, and there are numerous projects that need to be started here at the museum. This will be utilized to start those and in some cases even finish those projects. The last is our program expenses. To increase and improve our educational offerings, we will use more of this budget. And the idea with using all of this budget line will be then so that we can increase our revenue streams, which we'll talk about moving forward here. Our revenue streams are set to increase in 2025 with changes to 3 different lines, the 3 most important ones, which are our museum tour admission. So this is actually set to increase to 32,000 from 26,000 in 2024. The program fees are set to decrease from 11,000 from 13,000. And our museum store sales tax is to decrease to 16,000 from 18,000. The reason we have these is so that we can align our revenue streams with past performance and future goals. So overall, we do have a revenue increase in 2025 for our budget, but we just looked at where these revenues are coming from, and we made sure that it made sense where they were actually coming from and where we plan to have them coming in from. Moving on to major projects such as capital improvement projects. In 2024, we did not have any CIPs. In 2025, we do have money set aside for rock school improvements. This will help us to get the rock school, which is where the museum, the mining museum, existed previously, to get that fixed up, to get it updated so that we can utilize that space for classroom activities. We can have field trips in there, and we can utilize it as general use. The museum also heavily counts on grants to start and finish projects. In 2024, we received funding through the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the Wisconsin Federation of Museums, the Guy's Foundation, and the Platteville Community Fund. In 2025, we anticipate that grant funding is uncertain. It can be expected that we receive local funding as we have in the past, but as far as state and federal grants go, there is quite a bit of uncertainty. This is because the National Endowment for the Humanities, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the Institute of Museum and Library Services have been severely cut to the point that they are not able to provide funding. So this works at the federal level. However, it is also trickling down to state organizations such as the Wisconsin Humanities. With all of this in mind, the museum is sticking to our strategic plan that was created this last fall. The museum board, with me, the museum director, created a 5-year strategic plan that focuses on improving visitation and repeat visitors, building and retaining partnerships, improving marketing and our overall identity, and gaining institutional control and knowledge over the collections, as well as building and nurturing financial and institutional stability. This plan consists of these 5 broad goals, and those broad goals are also broken down into measurable action items that will help to keep us on track in the next 5 years. So how is the museum doing? What is going well right now? Right now, I believe that we have meaningful collaboration with community members, businesses, and organizations. We have a quality workforce that has the knowledge and experience within the museum and history fields. We have a combination of traditional events that year after year attract visitors, and we have the opportunity to grow newer events that ensure we are reaching all of our community. And last, we do have financial solvency. We have some capacity to respond to threats and opportunities. And then we can cover where are the struggles. So there are difficulties retaining qualified staff since part-time positions do not retain those who are highly sought after in the museum field, such as I had just described that we have here at the museum. While we are making progress cataloging our collections into our digital database, it's a slow process that takes away from more public-facing programming. And we have a large campus with many buildings to keep up with, which is difficult for our small staff who is providing other services related to the museum. Since coming on board a year ago, there are some other struggles that I have noticed that I believe we can create steps to alleviate. The first is our public perception. There is a sense that the museum is stale, and there are few reasons to repeatedly visit the museum. This is tackled in one of our strategic plan goals. We also have staff transitions. Essentially, if we can work on retention, ways to make sure that our staff are happy and fulfilled in their roles, this can be alleviated. And then long-range forecasting, essentially maintenance of our buildings, we can help to alleviate those with some steps as well. So all of that being said, under current trends, we can maintain our services with very limited availability for new functions, or covering absences, or continuing to train new people. We can have small incremental changes to update and improve our museum exhibits and programming. And we can maintain the upkeep of our buildings and possibly make some strides forward, but there is always the possibility of catastrophic failures with HVAC systems and other systems. Now, if we were to have our optimal money to advance the department, we could increase our staff to help us alleviate the stresses of simply keeping up at the museum, and we can move towards better services for our community through more and improved programming. We could upgrade our resources that we have for events such as tents, sound systems, educational materials, which would allow the museums to excel in being a great resource for our community and better utilize staff time and ensure their safety. And the biggest of them, it would allow our Hanmer Robbins building, which has issues with heating and cooling, to have small steps taken to alleviate those problems or completely fix them. Now, if the museum was put in a situation where services needed to be reduced, we have a reduction in quantity, which I'm looking at as if we reduced our marketing lines or reduced our store expense lines, we would lose attendance and we would also see less store sales. Now, what those equate to is actually less revenue coming in, whether that be from attendance or store sales. We also have reduction in quality. This can come from staff reductions, reduction in historic reenactment, or reduction in operating supplies. All of these things would equate to less time being dedicated to our community, our collections, and the overall programming that we offer. It would, especially in the case of staff reduction, equate to less revenue because I, the museum director, would have to pick up what is being lost, and I would not have time to write grants or optimize revenue streams. With all of this being said, I can gladly say that the museum is in a stable position where we can continue to provide for our community. We are approaching the issues that we have with strategic planning and day-to-day planning that will help us to continue providing for our community. And we keep in mind that we are here to serve our community and preserve the memories of this community. We want to create a sense of pride and belonging for the city of Platteville and the surrounding area.